Okay, can you hear me now? So that makes a lot of sense, and so I guess people were joining, not being able to hear, and then leaving. Okay, so let me. I don't know what happened with my microphone there. So can you hear me now, Melinda or Manny? Okay, so I'm going to try and answer that again. Okay. So for the first 37 minutes, I've had no sound, so I've just been talking to myself into the void. Okay, so the honest truth is that a lot of the time I have just been burning out and putting myself under a lot of pressure, and it's different phases. So at the beginning, I think it's quite difficult not to do that because you need to have like I need to be very present. It's very personal relationship built. I've been at so many events this year, and part of the reason why I've been able to grow so quickly is because of my personal presence. Now the challenge is making sure it's not a delusion and an ego thing, right? Because for this to be sustainable, it can't just be me going to events. So Gerber's getting more and more involved again, but it needs to be spreading that out. And I'd say a big thing in terms of growing a business and doing what I'm doing is to be able to have this process in place and also understanding what needs me to do it versus what I can hire somebody else to do. And is what's the highest value use of my time because it's not me doing everything, which is what I'm doing too much for the moment. And the challenge is that sometimes it can be harder to make instruction in the short term, but in the longer term, that's what pays off. So a big thing of what I'm really focused on this month in particular is as we've got more staff on board, is to train them up so that they can do the things that I was doing in the past. And in that way, then I can have more time to take off. And also making it so it's hard because it's making it so that it has to be me on anything. Because if it's dependent on me, then what about if I'm feeling sick and have to do anyway? And this is where saying having a co-founder is really important. But also what we're doing in the future is having ambassadors. So having people who can go on our behalf so that I don't have to go. So I say that's one of the big things that I'm trying to do is make the everything a bit more process driven as opposed to relying on adaptability and relying on my ability to work things out as I go along. And the challenge is that it's fun doing it, the work things out as you go along for a bit, but it's not sustainable. So that's one element is making instructions, getting the playbooks in place. And then another is being quite realistic about what the challenges are, what the roadmap is, and it's staggering the different things. There's lots of things that I want to release, but it's staggering it and making like I use if then plans, right? So if we get to this stage where it takes me only an hour a week to be doing this, then I can add that, as opposed to making it so arbitrary deadline wise. And a good example of this is, let's say, with the podcast, is that once I handed over the editing, and over time it's become less and less of my time, it means I've got more time for other things, and then I can add them in. Whereas if I try to do them all at the same time, then I'll burn out. And I think, especially say 6 months ago, I was trying to launch too many things at once. Whereas now there is that bit more, like I'm being a bit more conscious about that. So the lab podcast launched last week and it's this week again. Then later on, we'll be launching something called Baywatch, and Baywatch will be me writing about different startups. I'm not launching that until, for me, some personal ways, is I got the TEDx event coming up. So I need that TEDx event to be out of the way, which will then free up my time for more stuff for the Bay HQ. So that's one of the things I'm doing. The big issue right now is in terms of how I'm connected, where I'm very lucky that I meet a lot of interesting people, and I'm very privileged to do that. But because I meet so many people, I then have to maintain a huge number of relationships. And that's the bit I'm trying to work at the moment is how do I do that? How do I keep these? Because a big reason why I have the relationships is because I message people and I don't need them. And if I only message people and I need something from them, it completely changes the way that the HQ runs. So it's working out how to make myself less accessible. And for example, what I'm doing today. So if somebody sends me a bunch of questions, like, oh, can I pick your brains about this? I send them this link. And what's interesting is that most people won't come to this, right? So I give them this opportunity to ask any questions they want. And a lot of them will rather go for a copy, which is kind of disrespectful of my time, right? So that's a good filter for me. So if somebody's only wants to take from me, then I won't be giving them my time anymore, which is something which I was quite people pleasing about before, which then put me under a lot of pressure for people that don't even remember that I helped them. So there's no real point in that. And I want to help people that have that kind of respect of other people's time. So if they don't respect my time, then I'm helping them, and they're not going to respect other people's time too. So I don't want to create a monster there. So rambled there for a bit. I hope that's useful. I hope that kind of gives an insight to where I am. I'm also taking the final week of October off, which is long overdue, and hopefully that just give that time to reset. So I'm not taking my laptop with me, keep my phone on airplane mode as much as I can, not telling everybody where I'm going, just chilling out, not taking any pictures for social media, not worrying about anything like that. I'm not going to like shave my beard. I'm not going to do my lines. Just let myself just veg out and be fine with that. And what I'll probably do is take a notepad and pen and just kind of let my thoughts and self-reflect. And I think I just need that. Just watching the world go past. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also another big target for me is to really put in the boundaries so I'm not working at weekends anymore. Whereas at the moment I am very much weekends are just like any other day to me. So yeah, thank you for that. It's actually kind of frustrating because I realised I talked a lot without the microphone on. So I can just go through some of the stuff again from last week. So last week was essentially huge for the Bay HQ. We had 2 different summits, or 2 different conferences. So Sifted Summit, where we were presenting, we had a fishbowl. So that had like, I'd say 70 people there. It's hard to tell, but all those people were founders, investors. And again, a lot of the common thing we have is that people don't believe that their community supports them. They don't believe that people want to do well. So what we're trying to do is get more people in the room who do think like that, where they can support each other. So that was amazing. Met a lot of old friends, made a lot of new friends, lots of interesting people, lots of interesting stories. And it was very, very full on. So these conferences would be very difficult because of that, because there's so much. Like I probably talked to a couple hundred people in 2 days, and it's very difficult to keep your energy levels up. And what I could do sometimes is just escape for a bit, give myself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to relax a bit. And what's very helpful there is having a co-founder where we try to spread that out. But one of the challenges there is just how like you know that all of these people here like are doing very well. You know that like they engage, they want to see you at the best, and you want to put your best foot forwards. But at the same time, you are human with those challenges too. Because I always worry about this, right? If somebody meets at a conference or meets me at a summit, then I don't want to be coming across as rude or disengaged. But it could be it's like nothing to do with that person. I'm just tired. But then I've then left a bad impression. So I'm always quite open about that. I'm just like, oh, sorry, I'm really tired of it. Like, tell me a story. Like, if I look like I'm zoned out, it's just because my social battery is down. It doesn't. We can connect and we can chat afterwards as well. But that's one of the challenges too, is just making sure that you're giving people about that, right? Like people don't expect you to be a robot. Because we had 2 days in a row, the Fishbowl forum. So I'm going to upload pictures of that soon to social media. We can just see what's happening there. Some very good discussion about people saying their families didn't support them or their families did support them. Because what I think is always interesting about when you get the ones to participate is that people have different stories. It's not all the same. And what you can see too is that you have this bunch of examples of where people have been supported. And it's not about people going to every single event or doing everything like that, but just saying like, oh, I don't really understand what you do, but you're doing amazingly well. I know that you can work it out. Right? And that's one of the things that's quite underrated is that you don't need people to like every post or comment on every post to show support. They can just show support just by saying like, oh, like, I know you're doing really well, like you're smashing it, like congratulations, like you're really like that kind of stuff can make a big difference to people. Like, it doesn't need to be huge gestures. And there's something I listened to recently on another podcast, and it was called Congratulate, Compliment, and something else, and Consult, right? So what this guy does, he takes 3 minutes every day to do those 3 things. So he spends a minute congratulating people, a minute complimenting people, and then a minute consoling people, right? So if he knows somebody's had loss recently or something's gone recently, he's just like, oh, sorry to hear that. Hoping, okay, if you need to chat. congratulations wise, congratulating people like, oh, I've seen you a lot recently. I've seen you been doing well. Like you look pretty happy. Congratulations. And the complimenting is, oh, like I really love what you did here. Like your this article is really great. And if you can do these three things, it doesn't take a huge amount of time, but it can make people feel really good at themselves. And in a short amount of time, you can help. And you can just provide that little bit amount. And it's what is important is that the acquaintance versus friendship part is you can have a lot of people in a short amount of time with acquaintance. But if you're a friend, then you need to spend a lot more time. And it's understanding when that boundary lies for you. On Friday, we had the National Franchise Exhibition. So the National Franchise Exhibition, we interviewed a guy called Safwan Adam. Safwan is, so at 25, he was a franchisee for CEX. From there, he grew that to 6 stores in a very short amount of time. He then grew to other different types of things, such as care homes, food and beverage, cafes, and now, like a few years later, he announced a big portfolio of different companies that he runs. And he's somebody who stuck at school. He nearly got thrown out. Well, he got thrown out. He got thrown out one school, then was able to go into another school. And he didn't have that like obviously I'm going to be successful kind of mentality. He ended up going that way because he found something that really worked for him. What he was good at is that operating side of like looking at the numbers. He wasn't very good at he didn't want to do the creative stuff. He didn't want to do other bits and pieces. He was quite good at like spotting mistakes in the numbers and the balance sheets. And that enabled him to do very well. And again, that was in the NEC in Birmingham. So we've been in 2 major venues in the last week. And on Birmingham Day, so that was very tiring for me because I had to drive up there. But we had a few of the Midlands crew drop in as well. So people we know who are in the area knew that we were in the Midlands and they came along to watch, which is great. So just have a chat and in a more chilled environment. One of the people there as well is the founder of Heavenly Dessert. So he should be coming on the podcast pretty soon. So if you're a fan of dessert, then you can look forward to that story when it comes out. Then if we go through as well, so in the newsletter, every week we post about the different opportunities and the different events going on. So I'm just going to run through some of those now. So we've got this week, so in 10 minutes time, there's Ada Lovelace Day, My FinTech Flight Path in Rise London. We've got I Am Remarkable, The Power of Self-Promotion tomorrow at noon. We've got Hatch Lens, the financial planning for freelancers on Wednesday. Breathable Cities Demo Day on Wednesday as well. Ratio A Game on Wednesday with Innovation Banking. So I'm going to go to that event myself. So if you want to meet me personally, then you can go to that. My Refugee Life, supporting displaced communities into UK employment. That's Wednesday at 6:30 to 9 p.m. Secrets of Scaling for Success. That's by Jolson, which again, I think either me or Gerville will be going to that. And that will be Thursday between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. There's Gen AI Meetup by Lightning AI on Thursday at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. There's an Entrepreneurs and Investors Networking Cocktail on Friday, I believe. And then on Saturday, there's a FinTech party at 7 p.m. So you can see all of this by signing up to our newsletter. If you're looking for a job at the moment, here's some opportunities for you too. So Block Dojo are looking for an early stage founder. So they're an accelerator. So if you've got a company started in the blockchain space, they can help you grow faster. Why Hungry are looking for an experienced female marketer, a mid-senior software engineer, and a junior operations manager. Nala are looking for a head of finance and a head of people and talent. Hive are looking for a back-end engineer, a customer experience manager, a front-end engineer, a head of capacity and planning, payroll administrator, a people operations officer, and a principal depot manager. Orchard and AI are looking for an account manager, a user coach, and a user coach bid writing professional. CHR Life Sciences are looking for a recruitment consultant. So those are some of the jobs available at the moment. Okay, let's have a look at the different tabs here. Where have I got? So maybe I have to look at my emails. So that's all good. So I mentioned as well, so we've got another event coming up on November the 8th, and that will be Barclays Rise, so the FinTech Accelerator. So that will be looking at democratizing fintech. So we're going to have interviews, we're going to have a panel of different founders from Asian backgrounds and what they're doing to try and make fintech more accessible. So one person is making personal finance easier for people who are immigrants. So when you move to this country, it's very difficult to set up a bank account. It's very difficult to understand about ISIS and all this kind of stuff. So they're doing incredible work on that front. There will be Matt Ong. So he's going to be, so his company is increasing access to alternative assets. Because a lot of the time, only very rich people have got access to this, which means that they get the advantage of having wider variety of what they can invest in. I mean, so they can get higher returns. Whereas often people who don't have those kind of resources have limited options and maybe can't get the same returns. And then the final guest is to be confirmed, but it's likely to be somebody who's making angel investing easier for people like us, where we can only put in a few £1,000 at a time maximum, rather than the usual where somebody will email me being like, hey, I'm looking for 50K. It's like, I don't have 50K lying around. So that event will be really good, especially if you're interested in finance and interested in that fintech space, because that's where a lot of UK innovation is happening at the moment. But I say that actually healthcare is another big area which people should be paying attention to. So got another 7 minutes to go. So any more questions from the audience, let me know. I'm just getting my breath back. So one thing I need to do is get a new phone and a new laptop, because these are struggling at the moment with the demands of what I'm doing. So let me have a look at that now. So new laptop. How much is the iPhone 15 Pro Max? Oh, what's the latest one? Is it iPhone 15 or 16? Okay, so we've got the final 5 minutes. If there's any questions, let me know. I'm currently looking at iPhones. iPhones. iPhone 15 is £50 a month or 1,200. How often do you say no to things, and what's the criteria for push for that? I probably say no to a lot of things now, to be honest. The challenge is, for me, it's a sheer volume. So what I'm trying to do is break down my decision making further into processes where it's less of a subjective decision. So say, for example, for the story-based podcast of AHQ, it's quite simple. Is that you either have 1 million fundraise or you have 5 million revenue. If you don't have that, you can't. That's like there's no debate really. And having more of these rules, even though they are arbitrary, just helps with my decision making. Then with events, the challenge is sometimes why do I go to? There's some events I go to. There's a few factors in my decision making, right? Like why do I go to all these events? Sometimes it's that I'm not really interested in the event itself, but there's a few people I know there that I like. I want to just hang out with them, right? Or I'm building a relationship with them, so I go because of that reason. And one of the challenges to work out which one's the right ones to do, because there are events every day. There are always events going on. There's always an event I could be at. And now, as we get more mature with the BHQ, I can be a bit more picky about where I go to. But at the same time, it's trying to have that balance of sometimes, like a lot of people say, you should never be the smartest person in the room. But sometimes you should be, right? Like if I'm going to go to school talk, for example, then like I should be going into that room. And it's looking at where sometimes I can be like with my peers, sometimes I can be the smartest person in the room, sometimes I can be the dumbest. And having that mix of that, a lot of the time now, especially with meetings and coffees, I am saying no, just because I don't have the time. And the challenge which people don't see is that by me doing that, what's happening is every time I go for a coffee, it puts me further behind the other stuff I need to do, which increases my stress, which means I'm not going to the gym too much. I'm not doing things that self-care to go back to an industry as well. So what I think has been difficult this last year has been the eye of the storm. Because I never get enough time to self-reflect, then I can work on autopilot. So that's why I'm having that break at the end of the month to really reflect on like, what should I be saying yes to, and having a more formalized criteria, as you say. A lot of the time now, for example, is like a lot of the events, it says to come, like, you've got different criteria. One's like, am I going to have fun? If I'm going to have fun, then I'll probably go. Whereas other events, it would be more of a decision of like, am I going to learn? And the position I'm now in, because I'm able to talk to people I'm able to talk to, I don't really go to many events in a position of I need to learn. For me, I'm generally going because I want to chat to people and the more enjoyment side. But it's obviously different because I have now this, say, 3 or 4 year background talking to entrepreneurs, where it's a lot rarer for an event to really like, shine some light. So I say that there was a great event by Andy Iron last week where I learned quite a lot about angel investing. So it really does vary. Other things I'd say no to. Now, okay, another thing, like, now I say no to a lot of collaborations. And the reason behind it is because I think we need a stronger foundation with the Bay HQ before we can do collaborations, because then we just make things messier and got too much going on. But I'm going to have to wrap up now with the time. I've got a call from the crew. So thanks everybody for listening today. And I'm sorry that first 40 minutes didn't have any sound.